Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, one of the new features that we have here within MW3 and Warzone is the conversion kits for weapons that basically take them as a base weapon. You throw on the conversion kit and it makes a whole new weapon that functions almost entirely different in some cases from what the original weapon is. We sort of had this back in MW2, like for instance, the X13 Auto kind of functioned as this. It just wasn't officially called a conversion kit. But now that we've got them this year and there's a lot of options for them, I wanted to break down 5 of them that stand out the most to me, that are probably the most competitive in the current meta. So as we get into it, if you enjoy the video, if you find it helpful at all, do me a favor, drop a like. It would be really appreciated. As always, much love to everyone who takes the time to do so. And if you're new here or you simply have not subscribed yet, this is your one-stop shop for all things going on in COD. News, updates, meta breakdowns, patch notes, it's all right here. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But we're starting here first with the Core 45 and its conversion kit, which actually makes it probably one of the more unique weapons on the list here today and just in the game in general. This essentially takes it from being a semi-auto, sort of very spammable pistol into what's basically a 2-round burst pistol in a really funky way. So if we go into our actual loadout here, obviously we've got the IPv2 conversion kit, and as you can see, this increases the fire rate, the velocity, and the idle sway, even though that's not fully translated to our detailed stats here. But it increases the fire rate, the range, the velocity, while hurting your headshot damage and your upper torso damage and whatnot. But in reality, the burst function of this makes it so that it's crazy good close range and mid range here. So obviously we've got the conversion kit on this loadout. I go for the 30 round mag. You could even jump up to 40 if you really wanted to. It'll slow you down a little bit more, but that's more so preference based, in all honesty. I don't love the iron sights here, especially with like the recoil that the burst feature sort of adds to it. So I go for an elo sight with the MK3 reflector. If there's a slate or a different optic you prefer more, always go for that. Make sure you're always comfortable with your optic that's in use. The DL laser gives me an even better ADS and sprint to fire stat there, so we're even snappier and even more aggressive. Then I go for the Sonic Suppressor XS suppressor here, which obviously is going to keep me off the radar. It also extends the range and the velocity a little bit more as well. Adds in a little bit of control, but that's not a huge deal, just because we can manage it by how fast we're shooting it. And if we go into the firing range, you can see obviously if I shoot once here, it's going to obviously shoot once when I press my trigger, but then when I release the trigger, it shoots again. So it basically becomes a 2-round burst whenever you are tapping here, which is a really unique feature. And in turn, when you spam it up close, you're going to end up being able to absolutely fry dummies. Now you'll see, obviously, the faster you spam it, the more recoil it's going to end up having. So it does become a little bit awkward there depending on your trigger finger and how fast you can shoot it. But in super close range fights, you know, if you're pushing a building, obviously distances that are closer than this will happen plenty in game. If you're playing super aggressive, you're going to be able to absolutely just smoke through enemies with this thing. It's pretty crazy. Now another really solid conversion kit is for the MCW assault rifle. This is basically the ACR, and conveniently enough, this in my opinion makes the MCW a lot more competitive outright. Not only is the conversion kit itself just really competitive, but the MCW as a base weapon, kind of mediocre. It's super easy to use, but its TTK is one of the worst in the game. So this makes it a much more aggressive, snappier rifle, really more of like an SMG AR hybrid meant for sort of sniper support or more rush heavy playstyles. And it's actually really competitive in terms of its TTK. Its close to mid range is super effective there. So obviously on this setup, we've got the Jack Raven kit. This is increasing the rate of fire, the close range damage, and the mobility and handling, which we see translated here in the advanced stats a decent amount. I go for the 40 round mag, which is actually an aftermarket option here. You can either go for 40 or 20 if you're looking for a magazine attachment, and 40 obviously you're going to want for, you know, trios and quads or any larger squad based engagements. Again, not really huge on the iron sights here, so I go for the MK3 reflector. Really good for close to mid range fights and sniper support style builds. Nice and accurate there. The MCW, as mentioned, is super easy to use, so instead of going for an underbarrel to help out with control, I go all in on mobility with the DR6 handstop. It's not hurting my recoil at all, but I'm getting better ADS, sprint to fire, base movement speed, just making this even more aggressive and SMG-like. And then just to stay off the radar, I'm using the Shadow Strike suppressor. I don't really want to use something that's going to slow down my ADS or my sprint to fire in this case for the close range, so that's why I forego a Spirit Fire, maybe one of these other suppressors. This just simply keeps me off the radar and keeps that nice and consistent. And as you'll see when we go into the firing range here, incredibly easy to use, very low recoil, not really difficult at all, and it's still snappy and it's still aggressive. Quick ADS, and then you can just laser beam players. It's really easy to just basically shoot straight. That's the standard recoil pattern. They're not controlling it whatsoever. You go in to control it, and you're going to be accurate as can be. The MCW is a very straightforward weapon, and considering close range fights are obviously easier to shoot in as well and stay on target because the physical target's bigger, this is a great sniper support build. Now, arguably the best conversion kit in the game is for the Pulemyot 762 LMG. This conversion kit turns this into a bullpup LMG, which is really more of like a rifle LMG hybrid, and it is utterly insane. It makes this gun so much more aggressive while also having one of the best TTKs in the game, both in the mid-range and the long range as well. This is one of my favorite setups in the game. I'm constantly using this as just a general, setup that I want to run for standard gameplay, not even forcing a conversion kit into action here to test it out. This is a natural one that just fits so well with gameplay here. So obviously, we've got the Jack Annihilator bullpup kit on here. It goes crazy with the movement speed, better control, so you're gonna be a laser beam with this thing. It's just all around so much fun to use. I've also got the added recoil reduction pad on here. This comes with this conversion kit, just makes your recoil way better and doesn't really hurt your mobility all that much. 5% to your sprint to fire, but it's an LMG. That doesn't matter for long range, obviously. For mid to long range, the 2.5 times Eagle Eye is one of my favorite optics in the game. Very VLK T-pose like, so nice and accurate there. I've got the Jack Annihilator long barrel, which also is available through the conversion kit, just helping out with the range and velocity here, obviously making it even more lethal where we're using it the most. Then I got the Spirit Fire Suppressor, that nice 3-in-1 control, velocity, and damage range added on here. And like I said, this thing is a laser beam and it fries at the same time. So you can see basically no recoil here. You're gonna be able to fry over all ranges like it's nothing. And for an LMG, I mean, really good movement. The ADS isn't terrible. It's obviously slower than some other weapons like the MCW that we just looked at, but all things considered, when you're fighting 60, 70, 80 meters with this thing, it's going to be a phenomenal option. And unlike other fast LMG builds, like let's say the Bruin or the DG, this still comes with a 100-round mag, so you got all the ammo in the world because by default with that conversion kit, it doesn't change anything there. So really fun build and by far one of my favorites. Now this loadout's probably the least versatile out of all the ones here today, but where it's good, it is good. And we are talking about the Wasp Swarm Akimbo conversion kit. So you're running 2 SMGs, dual wield SMGs, which means if you're playing close range, if you're pushing buildings late game, playing those close encounters, these are absolutely nuts. Now obviously you are extremely limited here to just close range. There is no distance fighting with these because it's akimbo, it's hip fire. But up close, when you got 2 guns like the Swarm that already fry as is, close range fights are so fun. It's a breeze, honestly. You can just run through, spray and pray. Initially here with the Akimbo brace stock, you're losing a bit of damage, but you're getting better hip fire. You're getting better swap speed, as we see. Helps out with the Akimbo, the weapon swap, all that as mentioned there, basically. And then we just build it out for, obviously Akimbo efficiency. So I got the TAC 20 rear grip, which helps out with TAC stance spread, so it's gonna be more accurate, but also sprint to fire. You wanna get those shots out quicker. That's obviously gonna be clutch for that. And you can't use a stock or anything. Obviously an optic would be useless. Ammo you could get away with, but not the biggest deal. Then barrels just depends on if you're looking for something that's maybe a little bit faster, but this is plenty aggressive in my opinion. The 50-round mag here, which means you got 100 rounds to shoot out at free will. You could go to 100. I'm not saying it's a terrible idea. I'm not saying it's the best choice, but it's an option for sure. 200 rounds of spray and pray madness could be utterly hilarious and honestly result in some pretty funny squad fights there. I've got the ULO laser. This is for better recoil control from the hip, but also just better hip fire spread and more accuracy there. Obviously, as we can see, the stats there speak for themselves. And then I also go for the monolithic suppressor. This is giving you technically control. It's hurting your ADS speed and your ADS movement, which is irrelevant, obviously, because we can't ADS. So you're getting some free control stats there while also staying off the radar, which is always convenient. Like I said, there is no range on these things. It is close range exclusively. Like, you can't really be fighting the mid-range there. It's decently accurate from the hip, but that's just not viable when they're going to be ADSing, going to be missing too many shots. But close range, you can run through with these things. Not the craziest mobility, since obviously you're holding 2 weapons, but if you can sort of cheese aim assist well or play those close range engagements quickly, these things, I mean, you can just run, strafe, spray, and pray, and the enemies aren't going to be able to do much because you're just going to out-ammo them at the end of the day. And then lastly, here we've got the MTZ 762 conversion kit, which again just makes it a little bit more aggressive. It's supposed to speed up the overall feel of this weapon and make the handling a little bit more efficient there rather than being a heavier and slower battle rifle. It also gives you an increased magazine size, which is huge, and quite frankly this feels very like aggressive AMAX like to me from obviously Warzone 1 here. So we've got the Heretic Carbine kit, which obviously increases your mobility, your rate of fire a little bit as well, and then also the recoil, which is interesting. So a faster fire rate and better control while getting better mobility. ability. Now, it does decrease your damage a decent amount. We obviously know, we talked about it before, the MTZ-762 is one of the most broken guns in the game in terms of fast TTKs. This limits it some, but it's still surprisingly good given the fact that it's making it basically an SMG AR hybrid. Again, very much so sniper support here. I go for the slate reflector, but also the MK3 reflector, or, you know, even a 2.5 times if you wanted to would be totally viable as well. Once more, just go for whatever you're the most comfortable with. That aforementioned 40 round mag is larger than that default 30, which is not available on the conversion kit here, so you are getting a bit of extra ammo, which is nice to see. That 30 round mag on the base 7.62 is definitely a drawback for it for sure. I go for the choke angled grip. It adds in a bit of vertical control, but helps out a lot with horizontal, and makes this more snappy and more aggressive with the ADS movement speed and the base movement speed, so helping out a decent bit there, making the sniper support more aggressive. Then I do go for spirit fire in this case, just because there is some noticeable recoil still, and that'll help out with horizontal, vertical, and give me better velocity and range at the same time. And this thing, like I said, it feels very AMAX like, and I get that when I'm shooting here, just in terms of the recoil pattern and how the overall feel is here. Obviously, the fire rate's a little bit faster, and it's more so meant for sniper support than long range, but you definitely get that sort of vibe from it when you're using it. It's still powerful, it's still snappy and aggressive, and definitely a very fun option here for sure, as are honestly all of these here today. The conversion kits really add in a cool element to gameplay that really does change things up, and those are 5 of the best in the game right now. Obviously, we're going to continue to see new conversion kits added in through the weekly challenges and updates in the future, so we'll probably revisit this further on down the road with some newly updated setups, but for now, these are all absolute bangers in my opinion. That is gonna wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on it, and if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. That way you can always guarantee you're up to date with all things going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you later. Peace out.